We've explored political arguments, poetic reasoning, and utopian society blueprints. But what if I want to explore something bigger, like a multi-dimensional world? No offense, Exploration Lab, but I don't think you've got the tech for that. Like, where's the multiverse exploration button? You know what? If the lab doesn't have what I need, I'll make my own world. A place where I set the rules. Oh wait, somebody already did that. A writer, a woman in the 1600s.
Ah, you must mean Margaret Cavendish, Duchess of Newcastle, natural philosopher, and one of the most daring minds of the Renaissance. At a time when women were excluded from both science and philosophy, she wrote boldly and published under her own name, almost unheard of.
Exactly. She wasn't invited into the world of ideas, so she created her own. In 1666, she published The Blazing World, a story of flying ships, talking animals, and glistening cities. It's often called the first work of science fiction, too. But beneath all that, she's making arguments about knowledge, power, authorship, and more.
And before the story begins, she writes a letter to all noble and worthy ladies, where she lays out her purpose and persuades readers to take her wild world seriously.
That letter is where we'll start. It gives us the rhetorical situation for the story that follows, and understanding how she frames her story will help us know how and why we should read it.
So get ready. This isn't just storytelling, it's persuasion dressed up in velvet, gold, and fire-breathing beasts. Your mission? Analyze how Cavendish uses rhetorical strategies to explain her purpose and connect with her audience.
And by the end, you'll be ready to enter the blazing world not just as a reader, but as a rhetorical analyst. Before we jump into analysis, let's get a handle on the rhetorical situation of Cavendish's blazing world. Since we won't always get a tidy rhetorical situation snapshot when we start reading a text, let's build this one together using our three categories: author, audience, and context. The author, Margaret Cavendish, Duchess of Newcastle, was one of the few women in the 1600s to publish under her own name. Back then, using a man's name was a common tactic for women who wanted to be heard. Cavendish didn't do that, and it took guts. She addresses noble and worthy ladies, so it seems her main audience is other women. That's unusual, since most books at the time were written by men for men. And for context, it's 1666. Women were excluded from universities and scientific societies. Cavendish had to work outside the system, so how she frames her ideas matters. For a woman to write her own book for other women? That was a bold move at the time. So who is this bold author defying society to create a fantastical world for other women readers? As we read her letter, we'll gather more clues about who she is, who she's writing to, and how she uses language to impact them. To all noble and worthy ladies, this present description of a new world was made as an appendix to my observations upon experimental philosophy, but by reason most ladies take no delight in philosophical arguments, I separated some from the mentioned observations, and caused them to go out by themselves as merely fancy, or, as I may call it, fantastical. And if, noble ladies, you should chance to take pleasure in reading these fancies, I shall account myself a happy creatoress. If not, I must be content to live a melancholy life in my own world. Though I cannot be Henry V, I will endeavour to be Margaret I, and though I have neither power, time, nor occasion to be a great conqueror like Alexander or Caesar, yet rather than not be mistress of a world, I have made one of my own. I remain, noble ladies, your humble servant M. Newcastle. Let's zoom in on the first few lines to think about the author's rhetorical choices. Cavendish explains that the book began as an appendix to her philosophy text, but that she separated it out because most ladies take no delight in philosophical arguments. Instead, she offers something different: fantasy. Let's think about the effect of that rhetorical choice. Why might Cavendish begin by assuming her readers don't enjoy philosophy and then offer them fantasy instead? Pause to jot down your thoughts. By offering women what she thinks they want as readers, Cavendish tries to show that she understands them. This is an appeal to ethos that helps her build credibility, and the device has a name: antinagoge. That's when a writer presents a negative idea, then immediately follows it with a positive response. But there's also a fallacy here, a hasty generalization. Saying most ladies dislike philosophy makes assumptions about a group without proof. Still, it works. It allows her to position her book as a kind of gift. But what does she do next? Well, she raises the emotional stakes. Let's check it out. She writes that if readers enjoy the book, she'll be a happy creatoress, but if they don't, she'll live a melancholy life. That's a big emotional swing. And it's also a rhetorical device called antithesis. That's when a writer places two opposing ideas side by side for emphasis. She's setting up a contrast: joy if she's accepted, sadness if she's rejected. Let's think about that. How does this contrast appeal to the reader's emotions? Pause to make some notes. Cavendish is using this emotional contrast to show that this is personal for her. She wants her readers to know, your reaction matters to me. That's an appeal to pathos. But she's also stepping into a common rhetorical fallacy, the appeal to pity. She's asking readers to be responsible for her feelings, which can seem emotionally manipulative. Still, it's an effective persuasion because it makes her audience care. So Cavendish first presents her book like a gift to the audience, then says her own happiness depends on them liking it. Next, she'll make an even bolder claim. Let's take a look. Here, she's comparing herself to kings and conquerors, claiming power over the world she creates through writing. How do you think this comparison impacted her readers? Pause the video to jot down your thoughts. Cavendish compares herself to powerful rulers to build credibility. That's a metaphor. Her authorship is her empire. Instead of needing to rely on her own credibility, Cavendish essentially borrows the power of rulers through this metaphor. Again, most women weren't even publishing books at this time, much less ruling kingdoms, so it's a bold comparison. Of course, that's a false equivalence, a fallacy where two things are treated as equal even though they're not. Writing a world isn't the same as ruling a country, but the effect? Still powerful. She's claiming space in a world that never offered her one. Let's see how she wraps it up. She's just declared herself as the powerful Margaret I, and now she's calling herself a humble servant. Think about that shift. She sounds so polite and almost downplays her power. Why might Cavendish end her letter with such a modest tone? Pause to make some notes. She's appealing to ethos again, making herself seem more trustworthy by saying, "I'm on your side." She closes the letter not with confrontation, but with an open hand, inviting her readers into the world she's created. So what else have we learned about the rhetorical situation of the blazing world? Let's add to our chart. For author, I'll add that Cavendish presents herself as thoughtful, ambitious, and emotionally invested. Audience? She speaks directly to women, inviting them to consider her fantastical ideas. And context. This letter helps frame the fictional story to follow as something meaningful, imaginative, and worth taking seriously. This letter isn't just a preface. It's her way of claiming authority and guiding her readers into something completely new. As you read The Blazing World, keep asking, what arguments is Cavendish making through her storytelling? And how do her rhetorical choices impact my thinking? But watch your step, because the bear men have opinions, and the Empress has all the power.
Hey!